Welcome back, creeps, to another episode of Cryptic Insight. My name is Cedric. This is my girlfriend Jessica. Today we are reviewing Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. We'll just jump right into it. For me, historically, I have always. It's. I hear a bunch of opinions about these movies, and I can understand where the perspectives are coming from, but it's hard because I'm such a diehard Michael Myers fan. I'm noticing, even though I can acknowledge the many faults that people point out, and I can acknowledge that those aren't great things. I just can't help but love these movies. I just have fun with all of them. Historically speaking, many do not like Halloween 5, and I know why. There are things about it that I wish were better, of course, but I mean, all in all, I feel again what we have is, in general, a solid Halloween movie. Nothing spectacular, but it's just like a general run of the mill um, slasher film that has Michael Myers in it. And as we kind of were reflecting on while we were watching the movie, what we noticed is that, or at least I was noticing, is that Halloween 4 feels very Friday the 13th ish with the Michael Myers portrayal. And this one, even though I have some minor gripes about Michael Myers himself, which I guess we'll start with him to start a review of the movie, Michael himself. It seems a bit more Michael-y. He's definitely bigger. He's definitely a much larger actor than Nick Castle in the first film and Dick Warlock in the second film. So he's still very hulky-ish, but we have him stalking and watching people from afar before he kills them again. Whereas in Halloween 4, we didn't really have the stalking as much, or at least we didn't. There wasn't like a POV shot of Michael stalking people. Like the camera wasn't from Michael's perspective as much in Halloween 4 as it is in 1 and 2 and in 5, in my opinion. And one thing about Michael Myers in this movie, of course, as with many of the other sequels, is the mask. So, a lot of people do not like this mask. I get why. I get why. It's not the original, right? Like, we want the masks to be as close to the original as possible because that's what made him so interesting to some, cool to some, fascinating, aesthetically pleasing. And of course that has to do with, as I've mentioned before, lighting, portrayal, how the character is done in camera work. But the original mask, there's just something about it that Halloween fans and people who watch Halloween, they look at the mask and they're like, that's Michael Myers. And when it changes in the movies, we can accept that it's Michael Myers, but we also, it takes us out of the universe when the mask isn't quite right. That being said, getting that out of the way, of course, I like the mask in Halloween 5. Not that it's the greatest thing ever, of course, but I've always said it has this real reapery alien quality to it that makes it spooky in a different way. Not in a Michael Myers way, unfortunately, but in a way that is still creepy. And when you put a guy in coveralls and you give him a white mask with brown hair, it's Michael Myers, and you can get away with it. I mean, at the moment, that's what I think about Michael in this movie. What do you think?
Well, going back to kind of what you were talking about in the beginning is in 4, it seemed like he was stalking less, or it wasn't as portrayed in 4. Kind of more Jason Voorhees feeling. In this one, you are right, it goes back to the stalking, but as you were talking about it and as I was thinking about it, I think this movie is known for the variety of ways that Michael kills, and not just with a traditional knife. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Chef's knife. That's what it's called. A chef's knife.
Yes. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because this is the one where I feel like most people associate it with Jason the most. I feel like because I definitely thought about, oh, good, we're getting back to the stalking behavior, especially in the scene with Rachel where he's in her closet and you see him in her closet as she's looking for her clothes.
Yeah, you can see the hand come over the rail.
Or after she's murdered and it's Tina and Sammy are walking in the park and he's just standing there in the trees.
Which I never noticed until we watched the 4K from Scream Factory.
Really good.
I don't know why I never noticed it before. I know the picture quality on older DVDs isn't great, but for some reason with that 4K from Scream Factory, I was like, oh, look. I think
really
we were also
cool.
watching it on a really big TV, too.
We were.
But they were just talking. I was like, oh, I never noticed he was basically he's in the pine tree. He's like watching him in a pine tree. And Jesse would notice like he's walking away and a branch falls. And it's like,
yeah.
It's like they didn't.
There's like a bush like right underneath this tree. Not a great place to sit because there's branches coming down on you.
Yeah, there's like a bench there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like a bench. And then he's like standing right behind all the branches and one of the branches just falls down. But he's holding like a gardening tool, basically.
I can't remember what it's
like
called.
A shiv, right? To break up the dirt?
Yeah, it's I can't remember what it's called because it's not a hoe. It's I can't remember. It's got 3 prongs. It looks like a claw. You use it to basically create lines in the dirt to plant. Your whatever
you break
you're planting.
Up the soil and loosen it up so it's easier to plant.
Yeah.
But like,
which makes sense because like I always wondered where he got that when he killed the boyfriend Michael.
Yeah.
But he's probably a gardener was in those grounds. You probably
got it from one of the houses around there.
Yeah, you could probably explain it that way.
Yeah.
There are a few things that this movie does kind of fail to connect. Not like necessarily huge plot holes, but you're just like, okay, where did we get this? What happened there? Initially, I didn't know how Michael gets to the farm in the middle of the movie with a party. And I was like, I know he grew up in Haddonfield, but he also was captured at 6 years old. And, like, he probably doesn't have much memory of anything besides, like, where he lived. And so, but then luckily, they show you that he follows them in the dead boyfriend's car. So he follows the cops when they take Tina to the party. So that made sense at least. But just like when I used to watch the film, I was like, where did he get the gardening tool to kill the boyfriend? Where did he get these things? Like, where is he just finding these things? But to your point, the different tools he uses
is a lot like
Jason.
Yeah. I feel like I just remember people talking about it before that the scenes were a lot more like Jason and the killings just because they weren't a normal chef's knife, which is the way he's commonly used to kill people. Not that he hasn't done other things. Yes, he does a lot of strangling. Strangling or knives is his main thing. And it's definitely a little different in this film. And the mask, of course, like he was saying, is different. I noticed, I think I like it better than 4. But it's not my favorite. The mask.
It's like I said. I know why people. It's like even Halloween 6, which we will do after this, is a better mask. I even think Resurrection has a better mask. I don't know if it's a better movie, but I do like the mask more. It's definitely a better mask in my opinion than H2O. That's a hot take. We'll do all that. We'll probably do like a Michael Myers mask ranking video. It'll probably take like a few minutes. Yeah. It'll be a quick video, but we'll probably do that once we review all the movies. But
honestly, the mask is not my favorite, but definitely from different angles at times it definitely feels more like the original mask than in 4. Because in 4, the eyes were all messed up.
Well, and the paint was pastel white. And like hardcore Halloween fans will know that the original mask was painted pastel white. It was painted with acrylic white. And so it was going to look like chic white. But the way they lit it didn't look
also,
pure white.
They didn't let the paint dry. So when he kept touching it got dirt on the mask simply because they didn't properly let the paint dry.
Yeah.
So it would get dirty simply from him putting on and off the mask.
Yeah. And so this one, the paint job helped it not be like chic, clean white, which was nice too. But yeah, moving on from Michael, as we've talked much about him, he is the star of these films. But Dr. Loomis, we'll move on to Loomis, as they are the dynamic duo in these movies for at least a few of them. Yeah, but Loomis starts to go off the deep end here. I mean, we're starting to get crazy Loomis here. I mean, he's full blown. From my reflection on 6, just really quickly, I think he's just a little bit more nuts in this one too. Which, um, yeah, I think he's definitely more crazy, more manic in this one than 6.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 he's very old, he's retired, but this one he's still in the thick of it. We still get some great Loomis quotes. The one where he's talking to the sheriff and he says, I prayed that hell would take him, but in my heart I knew hell would not have him. That's a great one. That's really great. I love that. That's just fantastic. That's just so Loomis. That's just so Shakespearean Loomis. I love it. So I'm thankful for another Loomis quote. I do think he's a little crazy. I think his treatment of Jamie, I understand it. Like, I get it, right? Another child is possibly corrupted with this evil that he's been fighting, and he's seen in Michael for years, and he's just scared of it happening again.
It seems like the obsession, it's like he can't let go of the obsession, so he started latching on to Jamie in a way. And I mentioned it when we were watching the film. I'm like, is he just working at the children's clinic, or is he just like
right? Like, why is he there?
Her, or what's happening?
Because like he's a part of I can't remember. Oh no, I'm brain farting. The institute he actually worked at in the first film. That's where he's actually employed at.
I can't remember the institution. God, I'm sorry, I'm not like you with names.
I can't remember at the moment.
It'll
but
pop
yes,
into your brain
it will.
as soon as you're not thinking about it.
It will. Because it's the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital is the hospital.
Yeah.
It's something institute, but yeah, I can't think of it at the moment. But anyways, that's where he's actually working at. So why is he at this children's clinic?
Yeah, he's like kind of stalking Jamie Lowe. But also he's like, it seems like he feels like she is connected to him, and when she's having these episodes, which it does appear to be that way, that Jamie's having these episodes whenever Michael's killing. But what's weird about it to me is it's almost like she's seeing it from Michael's point of view. Like, she is Michael. She's putting on his mask. She's getting ready to choke someone. She's getting ready to stab someone. But then all of a sudden she's the victim and she's dying. Like, in a way. So it's weird because...
Like, she has a seizure when he's killing someone.
Yeah, like, she's the one who's dying, but
yeah.
but she's portraying him. So it's like they didn't pick an angle for her. She was kind of like both sides, which I didn't understand completely why they did that.
Well, so Halloween Education, because that movie was ordered to be made in less than a year of Halloween 4. And so we all know what happens to rushed production, and people there wasn't supposed to be sequels to these movies in the first place, and Halloween 4 tried to end Michael Myers, and then the studio was like,
nah,
money. And then they were like, okay, well, how do we continue the story when the setup was for Jamie to kind of take the mantle, but Mustafa Akkad wants Michael because Michael makes Mustafa Akkad money. So they were given I think they did really well. You basically have to write a script in like 3 months because you have to get another movie out in this short time frame. It was made in less than a year, so they had to make a new script with the previous movie in mind. They had to bring back Michael because Mustafa Akkad has a contract saying, no, Michael Myers makes me money and he cannot die. Yeah, I mean, with what you got, I mean, what else do you do?
Well,
you put her in a hospital, that she's got this connection, and then of course the Thorn thing is introduced. We've got the Man in Black.
Showed him like crawling out, which makes sense, I guess, for this 5th one as an explanation of how he survived. But yeah, I don't think they thought through Jamie very well. I feel like if they would have just...
It's hard with what they were given.
Yeah.
and the time frame. Like I said, it's a rushed production.
Well, and it's like the point of view from him. I feel like that would have been simple. It's like they almost wanted her to have a connection for Michael, but also for the victims.
Yeah. And they like I said, I think with how just kind of everything lined up not very well for a movie, I think they did well. Another big thing that doesn't match that many Halloween fans talk about and kind of not necessarily complain, but that's the only word I can think of right now is complain about is the house. That is not the Myers house, as many Halloween fans know. That is not the Myers house. That is a mansion with a tower. That is not Michael's home. I can't remember exactly what caused that to be an issue. I think it was right when the house became owned by an insurance company and no longer was able to be used for shooting, and they didn't have the budget to build a set, so they just had to find a house and call it the Myers house. I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard from multiple sources that the mask is a mold of Greg Nicotero's head, the makeup effects guy from Creepshow and Dawn of the Dead and a bunch of these other famous horror movies. He also was directing The Walking Dead. If anyone knows about that, comment down below to confirm if you have any other sources to confirm that report. I think that's also another reason why I think it's kind of neat and unique. As a horror fan, knowing that that's possibly a mold of Greg Nicotero's face, which it does look very similar, close to it. I think that's what helps me with it as well. But yeah, the Myers house is, I mean, it's a creepy set. It's a cool house for a horror film, but when you're calling it the Myers house, it doesn't necessarily work. But overall, I mean, outside of these things, I think the characters were okay. Rachel dies really fast. It's someone we connected with in the last film. Tina, I go back and forth. Tina cares. She's a genuine human being. She's just trying to enjoy herself, but she's a bit obnoxious and just nonsensical because she can't help it, according to her, because she just wants to go to a party, which I understand. And, Michael kills another dog, his typical MO. Michael crying in this movie is... that's one thing that really bugs me about this movie is Michael crying and the emotionality of Michael and the humanization of him almost.
Going back to him being more himself is the hiding of bodies, which he didn't do in the other film in 4 as much as he did in this film. He hid bodies more, which he did in the original film.
He posed them.
Well, in this one it was more hiding, but in the attic he did pose them. But technically they were hidden because he did not leave them where he murdered them.
Yeah, so...
You'd really have to look for them to find them.
Yeah. I mean, so overall, for me, I'm going to give it, I think, 4 tombstones out of 5 just because I'm super biased. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because like I said, I'm a diehard Halloween fan. I don't really care what Halloween movie you put on as long as it's not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We'll get to that eventually, but... I
don't like either one.
I can watch the first one. Not my favorite, of course, but I can watch the first one. I like the theatrical cut instead of the director's cut. That's the one without the rape scene. I can't remember which one's out without the rape scene. I like the theatrical cut because it doesn't have the rape scene. Whichever cut doesn't have the rape scene, I like. But other than that, 4 tombstones out of 5 for me. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'm a diehard Halloween fan. You put on a Michael Myers movie, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy myself. So, yeah.
And I was still having a point with Loomis when I started talking about Jamie. With Loomis, again, it felt like he was trying to use Jamie during the film, which is why I didn't like Loomis as much in this film as I have in previous films, because I feel like it's more about him trying to finally get Michael, and he doesn't care who he has to use to get Michael, which is why I didn't like Loomis as much in this film.
So what would you give it?
I give it 3, about the same as the last one. I like the other one in different ways than I like this one, because I feel like the characters are a lot better. I feel like in the 4th one, but Michael just doesn't feel like Michael in that one, but Michael definitely feels more like himself in this one.
All right, and you hear it here, folks. So that was our review of Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Our next episode will be Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And until then, stay creepy. Thank you for watching.